this video, we're going to have a look at the first part of Assignment 2, Contract Formation. In the assignment, we've got a number of specific requirements. We need to write a policy, and that policy is to control when contracts are binding on the business. Now, what we'll look at here are advertisements, inquiries, making offers in terms of how long the offer remains open to your customers or suppliers, and how they or you will accept the offer. So we'll just work through the specifics on this and look at some examples online. The first part is to consider your advertisements. So clearly advertisements and marketing are quite central to your business. In terms of advertisements, the basic rule is very simple. Advertisements are treated as invitations to treat being the old word for offer. So it's asking a person to make an offer. Therefore, you are not offering. When they come back and respond to your advertisement, they would be making the offer. The exception to this is where there is a clear intention to contract with anyone who responds. Now that means contracting with anyone and everyone who wants goods or services, which means you would have to be able to supply an almost unlimited market potentially. So you want to think very carefully if that's the approach you'd want to take. So moving down, our decisional policy points. What do we need to consider in making some decisions here is where will you advertise? It's going to be on a website, it could be TradeMe, you could go eBay, which would bring in all sorts of international legal issues, email, flyers, letters, etc. So what are these? Offers or invitations? Well, as above, our default position is they are going to be invitations to treat. If you use an advert as an offer, can you limit the effect? So could you have things like limited numbers available or respond within a certain time? But if you do that, you will have to supply to the limited number you've stated. Another option is to think about sending offers by advertisement to specific customers where you are confident you can supply all of those people. And another option is to think, should you include terms and conditions with your advertisements to avoid any such problems? So let's have a look at a few examples. Now I've picked a couple here which are on TradeMe, which relate to the business I had as the example. So I might, for example, want to buy some cable, electrical cable. So someone's advertising these. If you look through this advertisement, it is clearly an invitation to treat. It's a buy now auction. So click on buy now. That is a contract with one person. If they wish to relist the goods, then they will contract with another person. A similar approach is to put up numbers that are available, so 10 plus available. So I can put in here orders for a specific numbers. They don't seem to have limited that, so that's potentially an unlimited number, although since they're advertising their sales and monitoring, they're very unlikely to have problems with that. Now if we look a bit wider on the internet, let's look up some of the major retailers such as the Warehouse. When you go to their site, they are advertising all sorts of things. I can click on any of these and maybe I'd like to buy some curtains, for example, to put in the sleep out as a furnished option. And that's going to take me through to some catalog so I can buy. And presumably I'll just add to my cart, go through the checkout process, and I can buy it. Now the question here is, do they have to supply me? Now what we can look at in the warehouses online is at the bottom, they have down here their various terms and conditions, and here we have specific terms and conditions of contract. And if we look through here, you're going to notice it states, when you place an order with us, you are making an offer to buy the goods or services. So what they are saying is everything on this site is an invitation to treat. So they are avoiding any problems with this by including their terms and conditions on their website, and that is clearly stating it is an invitation to treat. It is not an offer with their advertisement, because you are making an offer to buy the goods or services, which they can accept or refuse. So turning back to the questions and decision points, you need to consider quite carefully, do you intend to make offers to the world, or do you want to include some kind of limitation either in the advertisement itself or through some specific terms and conditions, or both potentially. The second issue we need to look at is dealing with inquiries. Now, the basic rule is a reply is not an offer in the same way that a question is not an offer. So a customer might say, can you supply X by July 10? Now, how do your employees respond to that type of question? If it's simply a response answering it that yes, we can, then that's not an offer. But if they go a little bit further than that, it could be considered an offer and there could be an acceptance and you'd have a contract. So you want to consider here how you deal with this in your policies so that you don't risk staff making offers when they don't intend to. One option would be to have a standard response to ensure no offers, or make sure an offer is only made when you want it to be an offer. Now this can be almost impossible to avoid. It's relatively simple to avoid with emails or written responses by incorporating terms. However, you may want to consider what your staff training needs might be to deal with that issue. The third part is a process for making offers, including how long the offer is open for acceptance. So the basic law here is pretty simple. It stays open for a reasonable time, and that depends entirely on the goods being offered or services and how long a person should reasonably be given to consider the offer. Or it may be for a specified time, and that means putting a specific time limit in your offers, which might say these offers are open for 6 weeks, 6 minutes, any amount of time you wish to make, or until you withdraw them. But generally it's better to put a specified time in so you don't have to remember to withdraw them. So consider what your policy is in relation to your goods and services. For some of your businesses, it really won't matter. For others, becoming overcommitted or having the problem of having outstanding offers, which if they're all accepted would mean you're overcommitted, is a particular problem. So how will you ensure your policy applies to any offers your business makes? And you want to consider here terms and conditions, incorporating them on letters, emails, and also training for staff. The follow-up problem with that is dealing with counter-offers. The law in this is quite straightforward. A counter-offer cancels an existing offer. So if I make an offer to you and you counter-offer, my offer is extinguished. However, your counter-offer creates a new offer, and that offer may be accepted. The problem with offers and counter-offers in both directions is they can change the terms under which contracts are entered into. So your decision policy is how to deal with a customer or supplier making a counter-offer to you. Meaning, do you want to accept those offers, or do you want to go back with your own counter-offer, which may actually mimic the customer's offer, but since it's from you, would incorporate your terms and conditions. Again, you want to consider if this is actually an issue for your business. It might not be, and you are open to making that statement by explaining why it doesn't matter to you. Again, a standard clause in communications could be quite useful. If so, set it out and where it will be used. The example with the warehouse is one used in advertisements, but you can do similar things with emails and letters. The fourth down here is how acceptance is to be made. And the law is that any form of acceptance is acceptable to create a contract. So we can accept offers in writing, orally, or by email. And sometimes we don't want that because it creates offers in a very informal way. And it's open to us to specify in our offer how the other person can accept it. So we can send quotes when doing major work, and in the quote saying this quote must be accepted in writing in the attached form, and on it you can incorporate terms and conditions. So following through in our decision policy points, if you are quite happy with contracts being formed through any means of acceptance, which is quite likely in some retail situations, then you can state that and you can work through the points above. Do you want them all to be in writing with your statements on it, or do you want to have a specific method of acceptance, such as a form attached to a quote? Now, the answer to these questions will depend on your goods and services and business and what suits you. But when you're just considering the issues of formation of contract, it's often useful just to go online and have a look at what other people do. So I've found a couple of examples. Here's a quotation acceptance form. You wouldn't use this for retail customers, small orders, but you would use this for more major contracts or when you're entering into long-term supply arrangements with, say, corporate customers for some of your businesses. That could include things like goods, services, catering, most of the businesses that you have. And you'll notice the terms contained in this. I accept the quotation and certify it's true and correct. I've read and understand terms and conditions, and they have a link through to the conditions. And this in itself is incorporating the terms and conditions of the business. And it's a good way to avoid the counteroffer issue as well. And so they've just provided a bunch of material to put here. And of course that's saying online, so they've got some capture to avoid spam robots. Now you can go a lot more detailed than this. This is a British one, but same thing applies here. They have a quotation acceptance where they set out a range of services. So this is a very generic form which puts down all their various services, and some of you with repairs and construction could offer a number of options and simply have tick to accept the various options. And so that forms the acceptance, and you know exactly what the person's accepting. And as you can see down here, they've incorporated their terms and conditions of contract on the acceptance form. So this is a very good way to incorporate things. But as said before, this is more important if you have larger customers, long-term supply contracts. Now just to finish with one comment, and that is that we are looking at normal business practices here, and in some forms of contracts such as sale and purchase of land and financing in particular, there are statutes applying, such as the Property Law Act for sale of property and the Consumer Credit Finance Act for financing arrangements that specify exactly what must be in contracts and also require them all to be in writing. So if you have a specific type of contract in your business that requires to be in writing under statute, it would apply. This is unlikely for most business, with the exception of arranging finance, which you are not required to do for this particular assignment. One last comment worth just making here is we are in this assignment to start talking about formation of contract and terms and conditions. And the terms and conditions we've noted, particularly here from this website of the warehouse, is how to avoid the advertisements being considered an offer when they are so specific with shopping carts and what would otherwise appear to be an offer. But incorporated in these terms and conditions are a great deal of other content, and when you are setting up a business, you would need to consider what else to put in your terms and conditions. And you can see the type of detail they've got here. And this will include disclaimers. It may include exclusion clauses. It may limit the liability of one party to the other. And when you're doing that, you also have to consider the implications of certain types of legislation. So you cannot exclude liability, for example, from the Consumer Guarantees Act or Fair Trading Act when dealing with, in particular, consumers. But in some cases you can with dealing with business-to-business clients. So the comment for right now is simply that your terms and conditions will be much more extensive than those we are currently discussing, but you do not need to incorporate any other terms and conditions except those related to formation if you choose to use that approach, such as the warehouse approach. And remember in all of these not to overdo it. You only need the examples required in the table. Not every example that's possible in your business. That would involve writing a book. Okay, and for no particularly good reason, we'll finish with a fur seal from Kariotahi Beach, just southwest of Auckland.